Infiniti's flagship SUV is back and it's bigger than ever. It has fresh new styling, a new interior, a new engine, along with a new price tag. So are these changes enough to sway buyers away from the Lincoln Navigator, the Cadillac Escalade, or the Lexus LX? Let's go for a drive and find out. The biggest change to the powertrain of the new Infiniti QX80 is the fact that it no longer has a V8 engine. It's replaced by a 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6, as is the trend these days, and it produces a very healthy 450 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. This is a very heavy SUV at 2.7 tons, but this engine has plenty of power and a lot of low-end grunt to get this big and heavy SUV going off the line. In everyday city traffic, the engine barely needs to reach 2,500 RPMs to get some decent speed going. Yes, when you're going up a hill, the engine's RPMs do shoot up to about 3,000 or 3,500, and yes, it does make quite a bit of noise that is audible from the inside of the cabin. But below that, in everyday city traffic, the engine is pretty quiet. Despite its downsizing, this isn't a very fuel-efficient engine, at least in city traffic. Officially, it's rated for 15 liters per 100 kilometers, but my average fuel consumption is way higher than that. My average fuel consumption for this week is 15.3 liters per 100 kilometers, and that does include a few highway drives. On highways, this is a very comfortable and fuel-efficient SUV. It gets some pretty decent fuel economy numbers, but it's in the city where this engine is very, very thirsty. The reason why it can get so much better fuel economy on highways is because it has a 9-speed automatic transmission. This 9-speed is very smooth at changing gears, whether it's in normal mode or if you switch it into sport mode. And even if you decide to take over control with the paddle shifters, it is still very, very smooth. It's not the fastest to react to your inputs, but it is smooth. But one thing that I don't like about this transmission is that at slower speeds, say 30 kilometers to 50 kilometers an hour or so, basically city driving speeds, it doesn't know what to do. It constantly changes between gears. It can't just stick to one gear. So because it's constantly changing, you do feel just a little bit of that slowing down feeling every time it downshifts. And whenever you put your foot on the throttle pedal and it's, say, at around 2,000 RPMs, it does feel just a little bit jerky. So I think this transmission just needs a little bit more fine-tuning with the software. And one more thing I don't like about the powertrain of this new Infiniti QX80 has to do with the brake pedal. The brakes themselves feel like they have enough power to stop this heavy SUV, but the brake pedal just doesn't feel that good when you put your foot on it. It feels like as though you're stepping on a sponge. And I did find myself from time to time just stepping on it a little bit harder than I needed to. So it just makes for a bit more of that jerky feeling whenever you slow down, that head bobbing feeling. And that's not what you want from a luxury SUV. The 2026 Infiniti QX80 is competent around corners, albeit it's not something that you'd want to push when you find yourself on more entertaining backcountry roads. The steering requires quite a bit of input from the driver to get the big SUV to turn, and although the standard air suspension tries to reduce body roll through turns, it's still very evident and unsettling at higher speeds. This is an SUV that is more at home on long, straight highways. In that type of environment, this QX80 shines. The air suspension also allows the QX80 to have a few different ride height modes. So there's a high mode, a normal mode, an aerodynamic mode, and an easy getting in and getting out mode, which is what it is in right now. However, you don't really have that much control over these different ride heights as you would in some other SUVs. So for example, if you want to set it to the aerodynamic mode, you can't do that. It only does that when it's at high speeds. You can set it to the high mode and back to the normal mode, but that's about it. Also, if you want to lower it all the way down like how it is right now, you have to keep the engine running and the door closed, because if you turn off the engine or open the door, then the ride height will just stop at whatever level it's at. Whereas in some other SUVs, if you turn off the engine or open the door, the SUV will continue to go all the way to its lowest point. This one doesn't do that. Engine has to be running and door has to be closed. So a software tweak will fix that, and I'm not sure why Infiniti didn't do that. Road undulations do very little to upset the ride of the QX80. The air suspension effectively absorbs them without making the SUV feel like a boat. However, over more potholed city streets, the ride can feel overly jarry. Perhaps it's the lower profile tires, or perhaps it's the calibration of the air suspension in tandem with the adaptive dampers. But the ride is not quite as plush as it is in some other full-size SUVs. As one would expect, the cabin of the new Infiniti QX80 is very spacious. At 6'4", I have absolutely no issues with legroom or headroom. Mind you, I did lower the seat to its lowest position, but even so, I can easily see over the hood. Blind zones are not that big, and the view out the back is pretty good too. Also, this SUV does have a rear camera mirror. It's available on this sport trim as well as the top autograph trim. That's what they're called here in Canada. The materials of the QX80's cabin are for the most part really good to the touch. There's leather across the door panels, dashboard, center console, and of course the seats. There's real wood right underneath the main infotainment touchscreen, but unfortunately there is also shiny gloss black plastic all around it as well. This material easily attracts fingerprints, smudges, dust, and scratches. So if you don't take care of it, it's going to look really, really bad, especially right here on the center console. The climate controls are displayed on a haptic touchscreen, but right underneath it, it's all gloss black plastic. So you're going to have to leave a microfiber cloth in this QX80 if you don't want fingerprint smudges all around this center area. Speaking of the climate control screen, it's all nicely laid out so you can easily figure out where to increase the temperature or turn on the ventilated seats or control the rear climate temperature. But if you've watched any of my previous videos, then you know I'm not a fan of these touchscreen controls. I much prefer physical buttons because I find those less distracting while driving. But worse still about this screen is that, let's say you want to change the drive modes. You go and you select drive mode and whatever. But you could inadvertently touch the lid that opens up the wireless phone charging pad. And that gets annoying because it doesn't take that much pressure to actually open it. So every time you go and change something, your forearm opens this lid. That does get quite annoying. And one more thing I've noticed with this main climate control screen is that if you turn on the car when it's dark outside, this screen is at full brightness, even though the infotainment touchscreen and the driver display are in their nighttime setting. But this one is on a daytime setting, and it just gets really irritating. So you have to go into the main infotainment touchscreen and quickly change it to daytime and then back to nighttime, and then this will change to a nighttime setting. I don't know if it was made like that by design or if it's a bug in the software, but it's just annoying that you have to do that every time. But this is only when you start up the car in a dark setting. In daytime, it's not a problem. Other than that, the infotainment system is Google-based, so it does have built-in Google apps such as Google Assistant and Google Maps. I find it pretty easy to navigate around, and it does have a few elements of some older Nissan infotainment systems, such as the sub-menus when you go into the settings, but otherwise it does look good and it is responsive. Additionally, if you don't want to get the main infotainment touchscreen dirty with your fingerprints, then you can use the right-hand steering wheel mounted controls to navigate around the infotainment system. However, this is very irritating and finicky to use, so I just use the regular touchscreen function. As for the front seats, they have plenty of padding and they are really comfortable on longer journeys. They also do have a massage function, but it's really just for the lumbar. It doesn't have any sort of shoulder massage or bum massage. And that's about it for the front of the Infiniti QX80. So very spacious, nice materials, but a few finicky to use controls. Now let's go check out the back seats. In the back, it is just as spacious as the front. Behind my 6'4" driving position, as you can see, I have plenty of leg space and just enough headroom. This particular trim of the QX80 has these captain's chairs, which are power operated, but you can get bench seats in the second row, but that's only on the base trim. There is a center console between these two seats with a couple of cup holders as well as two USB-C charging ports, and you do have a separate climate zone. And this second row climate zone does have individual physical buttons. So it makes me wonder why these physical buttons were not added to the front as well, because this makes it so much easier to change your climate controls or commonly used functions while you're driving and not be so distracting. So why does the second row get these nice to the touch physical buttons, whereas the front just gets a boring screen? I don't understand. But overall, spacious in these second row seats. The seats are really comfortable too. And yeah, that's about it. Now let's go sit in the third row and see how spacious that is. You have two ways to get into the third row of the Infiniti QX80. You can either go in between the two second row seats, or you can press this button, which will move the seat forward. It is power operated, so it does take a little while. So if it's raining on you, you're gonna have to wait in the rain for a little bit. But once it is forward, you do have quite a lot of space. At least a lot of space to get in. Once you are back here, headroom is okay. I can feel my hair brushing up against the headliner, and legroom is equally okay. My legs are brushing up against the back of the second row seat, but they don't feel that squished at all. However, this seat is not quite all the way back right now. It's a little bit more forward. So if the second row person did move it a little bit back, then I would have less leg space. But back here, it's pretty spacious for somebody of my height, 6'4", remember, and I can recline these seats just a little bit or make them a bit more upright. There are USB-C ports on either side as well as two cup holders, and you do get air vents here as well, but not a fourth climate zone. Back here for 3 adults, it will be quite squished, but for 2 adults, it's not a problem whatsoever. So third row, not that bad in this QX80. Behind the third row, the QX80 has 623 liters of cargo space. There is a little cubby underneath the trunk floor for small items, and there are controls to drop or raise the power-operated third row seats, fold the second row seats, and raise or lower the rear height of the SUV. With the third row folded, there are 1,670 liters of cargo space, and with the second row folded as well, cargo capacity increases to 2,860 liters. There is a spare wheel underneath the QX80. As I said at the start of the video, this new Infiniti QX80 has a new price tag, and unfortunately it is more expensive than before. It starts at just under $107,000 Canadian, with this sport trim costing just under $120,000 Canadian. If you go for the top spec autograph trim, that'll be about $130,000 Canadian. That is a lot of money, but it is less money than the Cadillac Escalade, the Lincoln Navigator, or the Lexus LX. So this Infiniti QX80 is a little bit more of a bargain if you do have that kind of money to spend on such a big SUV. The 2026 Infiniti QX80 can be equipped with a long list of convenience features. The usuals are there, such as a 3-zone automatic climate control, heated and ventilated front and second row seats, massaging front and available second row seats, available third row heated seats, a panoramic sunroof, leather upholstery, a head-up display, a wireless phone charging pad, hands-free power liftgates, a rear camera mirror, a 24-speaker audio system, and a built-in front and rear dash cam, among others. But other convenience features on the QX80 include Pro Pilot Assist 2.1. This is Infiniti's version of a hands-free driving aid that unfortunately doesn't function, at the moment, quite on as many highways as Ford's Blue Cruise system or GM's Super Cruise. Here in Canada, it is only available on the top-spec Autograph trim. Lower trims have the 1.1 version. But even so, the system had trouble at times navigating the road. The steering assist system kept losing track of the lines on the road, and it felt like as though it was reacting to the corners rather than anticipating them. Overall, the new Infiniti QX80 is a big improvement over the outgoing model. It feels like it finally belongs in the mid-2020s. On top of that, it is less expensive than its competitors, but it could still use a few tweaks to its ride quality and software. It's by no means leading amongst its competitors, but it is worth checking out if you are in the market for an SUV such as this. And if you would like to know more about this Infiniti QX80, I have a more detailed written review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up there. And as always, I will see you in the next car, truck, or most likely another SUV. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you in the next one.